Hello, and welcome to another episode of Composed Living with Elsa Elbert. I am your host, Elsa. Today's guest, I'm so excited to have a conversation with. She's like a superhero. Sheila Morovati is the president and founder of the nonprofit organization Habits of Waste, which focuses on finding solutions to shift our habits of waste and driving change by shifting societal norms. Sheila believes that environmentalism is not an all or nothing effort. Rather, each time a habit of waste is broken, we become imperfect environmentalists. Known for many innovative campaigns, which we'll get into in just a moment, Sheila spearheaded the ban of plastic straws and plastic cutlery in the city of Malibu, and then convinced Uber Eats, Postmates, and others to globally change the default setting in their apps so that no one receives plastic cutlery unless requested, which led to the passing of California State Bill AB 1276. Basically, she's my environmental hero, and I'm thrilled to have her as my guest today. Welcome, Sheila.
Thanks, Elsa.
So happy to have a conversation with you today and to share all of the wonderful work that you're doing to save this beautiful planet with everybody who's listening. But maybe you can tell us a little bit in your own words about your background and sort of how Habits of Waste came to be.
Yeah, I was an immigrant in this country, and I think growing up with that lens, it was like wastefulness just wasn't an option. And so as I got a little bit older and had my own kids and started taking my very picky eating daughter to restaurants and seeing all these crayons we were getting every time we'd go, I just thought, oh my God, there's tons and tons of crayons being thrown away and no one's really noticing it. It just seemed like this normal kind of thing. And I just realized there's so many kids out there who desperately need those, and our landfills are overfull. So why not do something about it? So that was the problem that I saw first that I decided to tackle. And I feel like I wasn't expecting to be like considered an environmentalist or a change maker or any of that. With my background in sociology, I was just thinking everyone thought I'd be a lawyer or something like that. But it was just one of those things where it was like a thorn in my side and I couldn't stop seeing it and it was driving me nuts. So I did something about it.
So I know what crayon collection is, but maybe you can give us a little more detail around what exactly you did, because this, I think, is so genius and it's such a beautiful start to changing so many other small habits. And I can tell you, like, when I was raising my daughter and my stepsons, same, like we'd go to every restaurant, you just automatically get a paper menu for kids and a little plastic enclosed thing of crayons, and then they like break them in half or whatever. It's like, it never even dawned on me, like there's probably millions of these every month or every year, whatever, that are just disappearing. Not disappearing.
When I found out that 150 million crayons are being thrown away by restaurants each year, I thought that number is like astonishing. So what I did was I realized shipping crayons is way too expensive. I thought of a bunch of solutions, and what actually occurred to me and was the biggest surprise was that schools locally here in LA were depending on their teachers to spend their personal earnings on classroom supplies because they didn't have the funds for basic supplies like crayons. So I started to find these schools, which were called Title I or Head Start centers, and I would pair restaurants with schools. So once a month, the school would pick up the crayons from participating restaurants, and incredibly, they would collect about 3,000 crayons a month. And so I started to grow the organization, and then I realized I had to have a 501c3 nonprofit to be able to work with the likes of Denny's and those big companies. And so luckily there was a dad in my kids' preschool who helped me with that. And so one step at a time, before I knew it, I had a full-blown nonprofit, and I was handling crayons. But later, I started to see in those same restaurants all the plastic straws coming around on the tables that no one ever asked for. And there was like 6 straws for 2 people within 30 minutes that were basically going to be used for minutes and then discarded, never to really decompose, at least not in our lifetimes. And so I decided to tackle that problem, and everyone got confused and said, are you doing crayons or plastics? And I said, but it's all a habit of waste. And so Habits of Waste was born, and I spearheaded the very first plastic straw ban in the world, which was in the city of Malibu. And that was when that path also began for me.
So awesome. I love that you didn't get so singularly focused on one thing, and they're all little habits of waste. There was a little quote in your bio about becoming imperfect environmentalists, and I just love that because, with composed living, we focus very much on sustainability, and it's difficult, when you go into someone's home and we're helping them organize, what comes out of that is alarming. The amount of things that people own that they don't use. And then even the language around it is like, oh, I don't need that anymore. It's trash. And so I've taught the whole team to catch people in those moments and be like, it's actually not trash. We're going to work with a textile recycler and they'll respin this into a new fabric, or it'll become housing insulation. Or, we're going to take that old towel, it's going to go to an animal shelter, but like, don't call things trash. Don't think of them as trash because they're not. And there's so many other use cases for these things. And so similarly, like watching those tiny habits of waste led us to start Composed Giving, which we just got our 501c3 status in July of this year.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. And so even though we had always been doing the work to make sure that nothing is going into a landfill unless it is truly the only place for that thing to go, I wanted to be able to do more and accept donations from the community and just make it really easy for people to like not throw their old t-shirt in the trash can and just be like, oh, I could just drop it off at Elsa's store in Woodland Hills and she'll textile recycle it for me. But it's hard because, if you make it easy for people to do the right thing, I believe that they will. But when there's a barrier to that, or when it's happening automatically and you have to go out of your way to say, I don't want that, then I think it becomes more difficult for people to change that habit. So this long-winded way of saying, I love that you're tackling it at the source with things like plastic straws. Like if we just don't see it, then, we'd have to go out of our way to ask for it. And I'm not going to. So then it just disappears and I don't have to think about it, which is awesome.
Well, we actually believe so much in default settings as a way of a path forward for, billions of individuals to do better. Because like you said, I also believe that human beings want to do the right thing if they have a solution or an option. Sometimes, we talk about problems out there, but there's no alternative. And so then everybody throws their hands up in the air and says, well, what am I supposed to do? But one of my favorite campaigns that we had was called Cut Out Cutlery. And we convinced Uber Eats, Postmates, Grubhub, and DoorDash to change the default so that users no longer receive plastic cutlery or accessories unless they request it. And that took us a lot of work, a lot of emails going at them, and a lot of other coalition members that are in this plastic pollution fight. But we did it. And then it turned into state laws in California, in Washington, now New York City. So that really it's just about asking for what you need. And it seems so basic and so simple, but it's a real big win for even restaurants because they save millions of dollars by not throwing away all of these single-use items. And like you just said, again, if there's a setup where people don't have to think about it, there's so much more poised for success.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'll add one more thing. The Imperfect Environmentalist is actually a movement that I'm really working on expanding. And my book is called The Imperfect Environmentalist, and it's coming out on Earth Month 2024. So just a few more months, and I'm excited to share that with the world too.
Amazing. Is it available for pre-order or anything now?
It is. Okay. It's available for pre-order on Barnes & Noble right now.
Oh, awesome. I can't wait to read it. The idea of being an imperfect environmentalist is so appealing because I think there's a lot of black and white thinking around sustainability. And it's there's, at least in my conversations with people, I see it's never going to make a difference, so I'm not going to do anything. Or they just don't know where to get started, so they don't try. And I certainly am not perfect. I was actually just thinking about veganism yesterday because I was like, I wonder if Sheila thinks you have to be vegan to be an environmentalist.
We have a
And I married,
campaign for that. We have
I
a
know,
campaign for
I
that
know.
one.
Big fan of meatless Mondays. I actually worked at a hospital in Seattle where the whole hospital chain was completely vegetarian every Monday. And I love that because it's healthy and it's good for the environment and good for everybody benefits. But I'm married to a man from Minnesota who grew up eating nothing but meat and like vegetables out of a can, and maybe bread and like a glass of milk with every meal. So it's hard to change those habits because that's so ingrained in how he was raised and how his tastes have developed. But now he's so open to at least trying like the substitute meat products, or I'll make like enchiladas that are vegan. He's
Yeah.
getting into it slowly, which makes me happy.
Well, we learned about a study that was done by the University of Michigan talking about how if the general public in Western cultures reduce their animal protein intake by 40%, we create enough of a carbon offset to combat climate change. And I saw this and I was like, that's astonishing. How could that
Yeah.
be? And so I thought, well, the public needs to know this. And so I translated that into this campaign called 8 Meals, where we challenge people to eat 8 plant-based meals a week. And that is the equivalent of 40% reduction of animal products. And then people started asking us, well, where do I go? What do I do? And so we decided to create an app to support people through this transition. And so it's called Habits of Waste. And basically you can calendar in your plant-based meals. You can see your carbon offset. You can basically
Wow.
learn about all these recipes that are whole foods plant-based so that you don't have to really even spend more money. You can save a lot of money because you're using a lot more like lentils and beans and different
Mhm.
things like that. And even if you eat out, you can plug it in and count it towards your eight meal goal. And we've had so much success because by eating the 40% plant-based products, you can really feel the difference in your body. I love meatless Mondays, but that's 3 meals. So
Yeah.
imagine just adding 5 more. And we've had people contact us saying like, I'm up to 12, or I went fully vegan, or I feel so good. And I don't have my medication anymore. My stomach issues are gone. So it's just such a relief to know that this is an opportunity for people who don't feel like they can go fully vegan, that there's an entry point, there's no pressure. It's interesting. It's fun. The app is really cute. And it's approachable because 3% of the population currently is vegan. So we have 97% that we could try to, give them a little chance to go even halfway there. It's a
Yeah.
big impact.
That's awesome. I had no idea about the app, so I'm so glad that you mentioned it. I'm going to download it today. And there's so many opportunities, like breakfast, I feel like is such an easy win to be plant-based. Yeah, I don't particularly want to start my day with like a heavy meat-based meal. So I feel like that's an easy, 7 right there.
Yeah, yeah.
How cool. And I think if I showed it to my kids and they could see like any sort of a tracker, they love the gamification sort of anything that they're doing. I think they'd be very into it. But that's a staggering statistic. Like if 40% of our meals we offset, climate change is ideal.
That's when we have to inspire people to know you don't have to be perfect to make a difference. And that's when we need those people who say, but I'm just one person, to realize if all of us could just value the power we have as a
Yeah,
collective, we have the chance to completely change the trajectory of this planet. And,
absolutely.
it's not only our responsibility, like obviously there's corporations, there's legislation that need to, shift away from fossil fuels, all the other issues that are out there. But I also think that, we set the tone of what is and isn't acceptable in society. We are the ones that have that power. So, another thing that we work on is working with the film and TV industry to put the aspirational lifestyle on screen. So not showing plastic anymore, showing people walking and riding their bikes to school and work and carpooling, or all these lifestyle changes that could subliminally tell us that this is the better way. So just like smoking took a nosedive after it was removed from film and TV, we can do the same thing with, climate change and give people an opportunity to learn and see things like, hey, I can do that. That sounds good. Rather than telling people what not to do, why don't we just show them what to do and like give them that positive, reassuring kind of hope and line of thinking that's going to take us where we need to go.
Yeah, I love this campaign. It's lights, camera,
plastic,
Plastic? Yeah.
and beyond. And so that's where
Yeah.
we're kind of going in 2024. It's lights, camera, plastic, and beyond, because we realize so many productions are like, we could do this. This is not hard. I'll take my, I'll put a reusable with the character, no
Yeah.
problem. And so we've worked with every guild, everyone that makes up the magic of Hollywood, and they're all in. So now we're asking them to go a little further. Like, okay, you got this part down. How about if, the scene would show again, a bike riding to school, or a plant-based meal at the dinner table or the breakfast table. So let's not show that bacon anymore, or that raw piece of meat, like something like a nice, marinara pasta, that could be so just the same cozy, warm feeling, but it's giving people this, again, mindset shift of like what is considered a delicious meal with that glass of red wine that they show and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love it. This is one of the ones that probably pops up most often on my Instagram feed. And even athletes, I think what the last one was maybe like Roger Federer or someone. And it went from like holding a plastic water bottle, and then the next photo was like holding a reusable water bottle. And so many people look up to, these people, and what are they wearing? What's their sponsorship? What water are they drinking? All of these things. So what a beautiful opportunity to just shift people's perspective and highlight what we want them to be seeing. And then again, on the topic of food, I mean, yes, I agree. Corporations can do a lot to make a significant impact. But as a mom, I mean, like I'm cooking for 6 people in this household, usually 2 to 3 meals a day. So I can make an impact right now, like starting at this moment in time, on 6 people, not just myself.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Elsa, that might really inspire you. But if a family of 4 committed to eating 8 plant-based meals a week, it's the equivalent of driving a hybrid car for 1 year. So that's just a family of 4. Now imagine what, a family of 6 could do. It's a lot. That's really powerful.
And I love that it doesn't rely on waiting for policy to change or waiting for a corporation to commit to something that starts in 2050. We can just do this right now and have an impact. So I love spreading that message. And I'm so happy that now people will know about the app and hopefully join the movement more. I have a similar ambition. We haven't had time to even start reaching out to production companies, but we would love to partner with reducing their waste after they're done filming. So all of the set production, any of the materials that they've used, anything that might just be tossed into a landfill or, hurriedly sort of gotten rid of, we would love to be able to partner where we could go pick up all of those things and then give them a new life somewhere else. We work with so many local charities in Los Angeles that, we can usually find a home for anything, even if it's like the weirdest thing.
Well, I'll know who to reach out to next time I get an email from someone from one of these productions saying, I have 1,000 hangers. What should I do with them?
Yeah. Oh my
Because I
gosh.
get
Give
those,
them to
like,
us,
believe it or not.
We love picking up those kinds of things because we can take them to shelters. Like we're starting to sponsor free clothing closets on local campuses, like high school campuses and the local universities, just because there's so many kids who are struggling and don't have access to clothes that fit them or new clothes at all.
Brilliant.
And
Oh, I
we
love
get
that.
so many clothing donations that it's like we need even more outlets. So being able to send those with the hangers is awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so happy to know about this. This is wonderful.
Yeah, it's so fun. I've been so inspired by the work that you are doing, and I'm so happy to be able to share some of these movements with.
Well, we appreciate it. The more people who know, the better it is. So if any of your listeners feel inspired, please tell one friend. That's what we always ask. Like, tell one friend something that you were hearing today and inspired by, and can like say, hey, I'm going to try this. Can you also? And then that person hopefully will tell a friend. And it's just like that. It's a ripple effect that grows and grows. And it sounds so simple and basic, but it really does make a difference when people talk about these things and bring it to the conversation, bring it to the table, because otherwise, we won't get anywhere.
Yeah, agreed. What are so other than the 8 meatless meals every week, do you have like another super easy tip for people?
I have many. I mean, when it comes to single-use plastics, it's really all about the reusables. Like that's completely our whole thing is like in the morning, or just make it easy for yourself. It just feels like people really like to eat in reusable containers and with, reusable forks and knives and cutlery. So I try to bring all of those with me, especially when I eat out. And if I'm at a restaurant, then I have my containers with me to just, pop them in, and instead of getting all that takeout stuff. So just like leaving a little kit in the car is kind of what I like to do with the shopping bags. But like, let's take it a step further and have some just light reusables in there. That way we can, take things to go easily. And so many restaurants now are even offering to put your order, if you don't want to eat at the restaurant, they're willing to put your order in your own box or a container. So that's nice, because it's not as difficult as it was during COVID to have these sort of shifts and changes. So that's obviously like one of our biggest things is the campaign like that. Another one is, using products that come plastic free. So for example, we have a Bars Over Bottles campaign where shampoo companies are always, giving us tons of water in those shampoo bottles, but there's great bar forms or refillable ones. Like there's so many alternatives that are coming to market that are just great. Like I personally use a bar shampoo now, and I wouldn't go back because it's just a great product, and I'm happy with my, lack of plastic. And then we just started switching over to these sheets for laundry that we don't have to buy this massive jug, and it's lighter, it's cheaper, it's easier. It's like fantastic. Why do you need to buy water? That's really the whole thing, right?
And they work great. We've been using those
great
for the last couple of years, and I love them. And that one actually started because we have a home in Arrowhead and there's a lot of stairs. And I was sick and tired of carrying these massive, like 20-pound things of laundry soap and dish soap and all of that up the stairs.
Right.
I was looking for something that was light and I came across laundry sheets and was like, this is genius. And they're completely plastic free, the product itself and the packaging.
Yep.
And they work great.
Exactly. And so it's our job, I think, as consumers who believe in a product like that, to talk about it, to post about it, to like, it's not necessarily to just help that particular company, but to get people to think differently. Like this is the new way. This is the future. These products are there for us to just try and see how they are. And I'm like, why people get stuck in a certain path or system is just basically breaking a habit. And it's right now there's billions of these jugs, floating around our ocean, and that are very hard to recycle. The reality is only 9% of plastics are getting recycled, if that. So, just imagine how many of these jugs you go through in a year in your own household times, the close to 8 billion people on this planet. It's just mind blowing when you think about it on that scale.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I just read
a couple tips I would say.
I just read that stat about plastic recycling, I think last week. And it sucks because I think we're also sort of taught into thinking like, oh, it's recyclable and I threw it in my recycling bin, so it's fine. But 9% of what is even making it into the recycling bin is maybe recycled, and that's globally. So that's, we really have to be mindful of just saying no to companies that are still making everything out of plastic or even shipping. I love so we just opened a store in Woodland Hills, and we focus on sustainable home goods. So we try to be completely plastic free. And it is so fun for me to source vendors who highlight that they are plastic free throughout the entire process, through the creation of a product, through shipping. And it makes me want to buy from them rather than someone who it's still going to arrive and it's all, packaged in bubble wrap or something else. I get like so excited and even like take photos and send them to my team. I'm like, look how they shipped this thing. It's like old newspapers from like 7 years ago,
Yeah.
And I love that.
We started a campaign around that, actually. I mean, I have so many campaigns, but it's working. Like, so these are campaigns, by the way, when I talk about them, like individuals can click in our website to, like it's a one-click email that already is pre-written by us and it's going to these huge companies. So one of our campaigns is called Ship Greener or Ship Naked, and it's going to Amazon, Target, and Walmart, asking these huge companies to either allow us to receive packages in their original manufacturer's packaging. I received a handheld vacuum one day and it just came with the label on top of the manufacturer's packaging. And I was like, wait a second, this thing is naked. I just like, that was the first thing that came out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And I realized like if the rigid packaging from the manufacturer, why the redundancy of putting it in another cardboard box? So that was one campaign where we began working there. And then I started talking to UPS and I said, we have this campaign, and they're like, well, we don't really know about shipping naked, but shipping greener and teaching people to ship as tight as possible. Because how many of us have had like one item that's like a tiny little thing in a huge box with all that plastic wrapping that doesn't even need to be there? And so they said that, one of their priorities is teaching their consumers how to ship products, because ultimately it saves these UPS and FedEx and all these guys a lot of money. If the shipping is done well, then that means that they can shove way more packages in their trucks, less drivers, less gas. So again, there's these win-win-wins all across the board. So if we can continue to put pressure on the biggest corporations out there to start setting the tone for how to ship and how to ship with less plastic, less filling, less garbage, or to ship naked actually. And if it's like safe in your apartment or house area that you can have that, that's the way we want to see it. And we already saw the toggle on Amazon now that it says, click here if you want it to come in manufacturer shipping. And, they kind of are just saying like, it's up to you, but at least there's a choice now. So it's really great.
And I love having that choice. And on my Amazon business account, I can also choose a delivery date so that they'll hold all of my orders, package them together, and deliver them in less boxes on one day. And I appreciate that. I choose it every single time because why wouldn't I, And this is the beauty, I think, of what you're doing, is making it so that the rest of us have these very simple choices. And I think, like we said earlier, when people have the option, they'll do the right thing. We just have to have the option.
That's it. It's really, there's this thing called choice architecture, and it's like how we interface with apps, how we interface with like different opportunities, like in the market. Like when you go in a supermarket, the way they've structured that supermarket has like so much research behind it. So I think that if we could use that mindset around climate change and around protecting the environment with choice architecture for the masses, I think that it would be so brilliant, because there's just, again, this like natural path that people could take that just allows for better choices. And that's what we're really trying to do here.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm so grateful that you are doing all of this work. I think it's incredible.
Thank you.
So people can go on to habitsofwaste.org, I imagine. Yep. And there's a drop down where we can easily just send these pre-written letters to these big retailers. That's awesome. And hopefully everybody who's listening will do that right now. I also can't wait to pre-order this book. And you said it's coming out April 2024?
Yep, April 2024, The Imperfect Environmentalist, and it's on Barnes & Noble's site already.
Okay, awesome. And what can we expect? Like tips on how to become imperfect environmentalist?
It's everything. It's kind of like, I got a lot of emails throughout my life saying like, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? I want to do it in my community. And I realized like, it's a lot to explain to everybody what I've done. And I just realized after a certain point, I'm like, I want everyone to know that they can do exactly what I did in their neighborhoods and communities. So it's kind of like I share all my secrets from every campaign that I started, from crayon collection to straws to plant-based eating to plastic cutlery. I mean, you name it, all across the board. And then at the end of each chapter, you get 10 tips on how to, kick those habits of waste and some alternative ideas. And then the last chapter is really how to like greenify your life with like the most easy steps possible that are most of the time cost savings. Like, for example, we talk about like stop buying Windex, just put a little bit of vinegar, white vinegar and water in a spray bottle, and you're gonna have better, clearer glass. You don't need to buy all that chemical, plastic, all that stuff. So there's just like small little tips that people don't even really know that there are out there. So we put all of them together. Where to put your thermostat at, like just like those small nuanced things that will save you a lot of money and really help the planet and put, you know, a smaller footprint. So it's just a very helpful tool, but it's also funny because it's like my journey in a way. And I share exactly like the roadblocks I came across. And I talk a lot about one of the books that inspired me so much, which was by Dale Carnegie, called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And like I pulled so much from that book to be doing what I'm doing today, and to learn how to become friends with the people that we're trying to make change within their companies or within, you know, legislation, and to bring them on our side, and that it's not us or them, it's that we're all in this together. And it really brings a very different energy about making the change. And people, you know, you'd expect them to have their arms crossed and like, oh, I don't really think about it, but everyone's like, what else can we do by the end of it? You know, the way we've approached them, it's like, what else can we do to make this better? Because this was easy, we did that, now what else? So I've just been really happy and grateful to all the people we've worked with throughout the years, and all the people who've supported us in communicating the changes that we're asking for from these huge corporations and legislators, because it's been a camaraderie towards protecting this planet. And I never expected that. And I think it's just the way we're doing it is working. So yeah, I'm happy to share my whole story with everybody who's out there willing to listen or read it. And yeah, I'm excited to see what it does.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait. That sounds fascinating. And I love that you're also giving people tips for how to do this in their own communities. That's major. And so funny that you bring up that book. I don't know why it popped into my head yesterday, but I put it in my Powell's, like the online used bookstore cart yesterday. It's like,
you will
I feel like I need to
this
get
book.
this for myself. And then also I've been talking to so many girlfriends who they get nervous with public speaking. And I'm like, you're hilarious. It's like a room full of women that you know already, this, you know, but so I was like, maybe I'll just buy it for everyone for the holidays and give them all a used copy and we'll read it together.
It's a great book. I mean, it's definitely changed my life for sure.
Awesome. Well, fun. I love those little moments of whatever the universe tells you exactly what you need to hear. So now I'll just place order.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
I also realize that I get emails from Habits of Waste that make it very easy for me to share your campaigns on social. And I don't know if that's just me or if this is like your normal newsletters. But I really appreciate it. And I try to reshare them every time I see them. So I would also encourage anybody who's listening to get on your newsletter.
Thank you.
So they can stay up to date on new campaigns. As it sounds, you know, you've already had so many, and I'm sure there's going to be more in the works. But it's very easy for all of us to do, to use those hashtags, to reshare across all of our platforms, and certainly to implement the changes in our own lives.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's right there. Pop-up window will be there right when you open up the website, and please do join in on that newsletter, because that's where like most of our communication happens, when we're asking friends, like supporters, to be like, okay, guys, you know, we've got to do X, Y, and Z to get. We were trying to target last year, for example, we had a huge campaign against like the Emmys and the, you know, Golden Globes and all the plastic water bottles that they're promoting so much. And so we did this huge text campaign and really made them hear us. And so we're excited to see what they do this year. And we should probably be seeing some changes hopefully soon, because I think the backlash for them was like, okay, enough already.
Oof, I hope so. It's
too.
funny because I'm so hyper aware of that now when I watch award shows, and I'm like, plastic water bottles on every table. Why is that necessary?
Yes.
And there's other ways to promote your brand, you know, like they don't, it could even just be on a glass refillable bottle and they've put their logo on it, whatever. It just doesn't need to be plastic anymore. We're ready to move on.
Yeah, that's it. We're ready to move on. It's time. I agree.
Well, thank you so much, Sheila, for taking the time today. I'm so excited for everyone to hear all the wonderful work you're doing and how they can get involved. And I can't wait for the book, all of the things. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you, Elsa. Thanks for having me. This was wonderful.
Of course.